I see that you were also giving some of our colleagues who were not here with us yesterday a bit of an update of what happened in the second sessions of yesterday. I see some of us were not present yesterday during the second session, and I see those of us, I just want us again to do a quick recap. Maybe for our colleagues who weren't here with us. So Robert, Moro, Thomas, you here with me because I remember you were part of the meeting yesterday. So whatever we treated, I'm sure that is still in your minds, and you can share with us what you learned or what we discussed from that session. So maybe for the next 5 to 10 minutes, while we wait for others to join in, we can just share a thing or two about what we learned from yesterday's session. And this goes to Thomas, Robert, and Moro. Hi.
Good morning. Hello, good morning, hi.
Good morning, Thomas. We can hear you.
Yes, you can hear me.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Actually, we spoke about culture at Ghana, doing a representation at Ghana, then the content and structure, the five D's language. Then we went further to culture communication, people market, and audience. So culture communication, and it's a presentation of ideas and information. Then we use it to act. Remember, adding emanate, that means you can reflect society. Then art being assertive, that means you can see how you look at reality. Then we talk about this popular culture, which was like the deep of and that developed. Remember, I think this is an example. So without I talked yesterday, I think can also add, you know.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for sharing, Thomas. Robert and Moro, who else wants to share what their key learnings are from yesterday before we move right into the presentations?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Robert.
So yesterday in the second session, we were talking about how we can incorporate culture in artistic activism.
Right.
We talked on a number of issues that concerned with culture, tradition, other individuals, whatever means culture. We also talked about popular culture. We discussed is something that is certain society.
Right.
Yeah. So we have examples of dances, Azon, yeah,
Yeah.
and here in Zambia also Yeah, I think for now, that's how far I can go.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing, Robert. And I'm just going to go straight and share my screen and the presentation we have for today. It's a continuation of yesterday's sessions, and for the benefit of those of us who are not here in the afternoon, I just want to go through it very fast again so that I can explain maybe a few things that would help you, and especially if you're going to get the materials at the end of the whole training, then it's good that we explain some of the things that might be difficult to understand. So yes, we started discussing culture. We tried defining what culture is, and based on all the submissions and contributions from all the participants, we agreed that culture is the way of life of a group of people living within a particular geographical area. And we went on to give some examples of culture, which we mentioned as festivals, naming ceremonies, funerals, rituals, videos, art, poems, music, dance, and so on. We also went ahead to categorize the types of culture into two, saying that some types of culture are representational or they are like aspirations of society, while other types of culture are more of the structure or the building blocks of our society. So examples of the types of culture that is representational is books, graffiti. Graffiti here refers to art and murals and paintings on walls. And we also have TV shows, movies, videos, art, poems, music, and magazines. Yeah, with the patterns or structures, or what we termed as the building blocks of society, we have style, beliefs, language, rituals, law, work, religion, sports, customs, and food. Lizzie is asking if we will share the slides with you later. And yes, of course, we will be sharing in the bulk email that would contain all the presentations that we have done in this particular training. So starting from our first day when we talked about the human rights-based approach to this final day that we're talking about artistic activism, we'll compile everything and send it to your email. So you don't have to worry about that. Yes, and we also talk about the fact that these two types of culture are sort of like linking each other, and when you are able to alter some types of culture, then essentially you'll be able to change the society. And this is why it's important for us to also involve culture in artistic activism, because when you want to cause if you want to cause an impact in a society, you need to target the mindsets of people. You need to target their beliefs to make them see and understand what you are talking about, and if possible, incorporate it into their lives. And one way to do it is to rely on some of the patterns and structures of the society, which includes their belief systems, their style or way of living, and some of them too. When you design your campaign or when you design your artistic action to target some of these beliefs and lifestyles to change it in a way, then essentially you'll be able to cause the impact that you want to see at the end of the day. To mention that culture is communication, and we use this as an example that when you have a speaker and an audience during communication, you realize that the speaker sort of like sends a message and the audience would receive the message and also form an idea about that message that's been given to them. And same thing as art also does, sends a message, but before the artist will have a concept or an idea to share first, which the artist translates into the artwork. It could be a painting, it could be a stage performance, it could be a song, it could be poetry or whatever art form that the artist is using, communicate to the audience. But the beautiful thing about art is that it is open to different types of interpretation. That means the audience can actually form their own concept, which might not be necessarily the same as what the artist, had in mind before coming out with the art piece. And we also said that this could be a very good thing for you. At the same time, could also be detrimental or a bad thing to you. So you need to be very careful when coming out with artworks, so that at the end of the day, your audience will not misinterpret it and it would veer them away from the kind of thing that you wanted them to see or know. We asked ourselves how art can change the society, and we said that art equals ideas and emotions. And when you're able to change the ideas of people, then essentially you are changing the lives of those people. We gave some examples of how art has been used in Ghana to sort of like shift the mindsets of people into doing things differently. And the example we used was the flooding that happens in Ghana almost every year due to our poor drainage systems and due to the fact that there is a lot of trash in our gutters and drainage systems. So this particular artist came up with this work to sort of enlighten people about the consequences of throwing rubbish into the gutters, which essentially causes flood, and there will be loss of lives in the end. So this particular art piece is an installation that shows the impact of floods, which happened some years back in Ghana here on June 3rd. And it also sends a message to the people that we can do differently. And the picture is not full. You would have seen that it says here, save lives, do not throw rubbish into the gutters. We mentioned that art is mimetic and it reflects society. And you would agree with me that when you take art and all art forms, it reflects the particular society that it comes from. When you look at the movies that are made in America, it reflects the society of America. When you look at movies that are made in Ghana here, it sort of reflects the lifestyles of people in Africa. So we can also rely on this to come out with content that our audience would essentially connect to very much. This was another piece that was made with regards to the June 3rd disaster. The thing about this particular art piece is that it sends a very powerful message to the audience that says that sometimes it takes a natural disaster to reveal a social disaster. And the artist was trying to say that because there are no proper drainage systems, then it causes a lot of natural disasters. I mean, if these systems or if these social systems were working for the people, then some of these issues that we are facing, like the floods, wouldn't have been happening. Art is also aesthetic and can change how we look at reality. And I think we established this in the very first session that we started talking about artistic activism, that you can actually paint a different picture of what is possible for other people to see and if possible buy into. So art has that ability to change how we look at reality. And yes, we talked about popular culture, and popular culture just refers to, in simple terms and recent terms, what is trending. Something that is trending at a particular place in a particular time. And we used one example yesterday that we all agree with, which is TikTok. We realized that since the COVID-19 pandemic hit, TikTok has been one of the most widely used social media apps in the whole wide world right now. And there are chances that it might stay that for a long time, or it might stay that forever. But then at the moment, we can say it's one of the popular cultures that we have. Another examples can be soccer, because young people are really interested in soccer and they are watching footballs, they are tweeting, they are, all the time. So popular culture is essentially what people are interested in at a particular time within a particular place. Society is also built on cultural foundations. So we need to build our messages on the cultural foundations. And when this call started, Daniel was talking about the fact that it's important to consider where people are coming from and the sort of lifestyles they live, the religious backgrounds of the people, how they appreciate colors and all that. So when you build your message around these cultural foundations, you realize that the people that you are talking to or your audience will find it much easier to connect with you and to relate with whatever message that you are sending across. Popular culture, we looked at high life, which was and still is one of the popular culture in Ghana here that people were using even for revolutions. Was we'll get to that example, but somewhere in our history, one of the songs from the high life music genre was used to stage a coup in Ghana here, and one of the most popular things that was happening. And the fact that they relied on that popular culture at the time really helped them to achieve their aim. So we have spiritual practice, which is very common in Senegal and also most parts of Africa. And there is this also right of possession. It's more of like a wrestling competition for young men in Senegal, which is also very popular and gathers a lot of people at the same place. These rights of possession competitions could be a very good platform to do advocacy or to do artistic activism. That it's important to also go to where your audience are sometimes. When you find that there are a lot of people gathered at a particular place, like say a festival, you could actually do your artistic action there. You might have the audience that you are looking for in there. We also mentioned that culture is political and it expands and can expand on the idea of what we call or what can be politics. But when Kwame Nkrumah was fighting for independence in Ghana here alongside his other colleagues, what he did was that he engaged a lot of chiefs and traditional rulers to help him reach to the masses. And when you come to Ghana here, traditional rulers, chiefs, kings are still widely regarded as some highest form of leadership within our society. And they are the kind of people who would speak to their audience or speak to their subjects or their people and they will listen to. So when you buy or when you win over these people, then essentially you'll be able to, achieve success in gathering numbers to join your artistic action. Yes, and this is the song I was talking about, the highlight song that was used to stage the coup in Ghana. The song is called Mami Wata, and Mami Wata in Ghana is a mystical sea goddess that everyone is afraid of. This song talks about how we can actually challenge some of our fears, And this particular song was used to stage the coup. And what actually happened was that it was played on national radio and it was agreed upon the people who were all conspiring to carry out the coup that when the song starts, that means they are going to start their mission to overthrow the government. And that was what actually happened. When the song started playing on national radio all over the country, then everyone who had their hand in the coup started, doing what they were supposed to do. Culture is created and can also be transformed. So we need to know our cultural terrains and use it to our advantage. And we mentioned earlier on that when you change the belief systems and we change the mindset of people, then eventually you'll be able to transform the society that they are in. There are some more examples in there, and yes, another one worth mentioning is that culture is selective. So you need to target your audiences with their cultural preferences. And this is also very, very, very important. Because when you go to a place like Zambia and you are using cultural references from Ghana, I'm very sure that people in Zambia will not really connect to what you are saying. So it's important to target your audience's own cultural preference. Here are some more examples of popular culture. We have a Zonto dance, which Robert mentioned earlier. We also have the Sabar traditional dance in Senegal. A lot more examples. There are so many examples here. So we asked ourselves, why are art and culture important to activism? And we established the fact that culture is the building blocks of society. And in artistic activism, we are looking at transforming people's mindsets, and we are also looking at achieving something at the end of the day. So with art, in combination with culture, we can actually move together, or we can actually move towards changing the mindsets of people, arousing certain emotions that would enable them to take a stand or take an action with whatever issue that we are speaking on. And at the end of the day, we will achieve the results that we want to achieve. So we also moved into the next model, which has to do with creative audience engagement. So after talking about what artistic activism is and looking at some examples and looking at some historical background with regards to artistic activism and talking about culture and popular culture, we moved into creating audiences, creating an audience engagement or creating a creative audience engagement. So the first thing we discussed was that it's important to define the problem and the vision that we are talking about. So defining the problem here has to do with choosing the topic and really understanding what the topic is about and looking at what we hope to achieve in a long-term period of when we are doing that particular campaign or project. Yeah, so we have this plan that we use. So the vision being at the top, and we explained that vision here is just having like an objective, which is in the long term. So let's say from 10 to 15 or from 15 to 30 years, what we hope to achieve with our campaign or what we hope to achieve with our project. And our mission here is just referring to what we are doing and what we hope to achieve at the end of the day. So we said that for us to really understand this, we need to start from the bottom here and look at tactics and implementation plans. And the tactics and implementation plans just means that the steps that we are going to take in order to achieve our results or in order to achieve our objectives or our goals at the end of the day. So a tactic here could also be the artworks that you do. So for example, if I'm working on an issue on climate change, my first tactic would be that I'm going to create an art piece that talks about afforestation and display it in a public setting where people can see. Another tactic could also be that I want to mobilize people to discuss about how we as individuals can contribute to climate justice. So these are two different tactics. And we said that these tactics and implementation plans, when you combine them together and how you do it is what we call the strategy steps. So a group of tactics and implementation plans and how you are doing all that, your strategy steps. And these strategy steps contribute to the goals, because these steps will help you to achieve the goal that you have set for yourself. within the project. And we also have here assessment. Assessment is just the way of measuring your successes or what you have done not so well or what you can do differently next time, And that contributes to the mission, the reason why you are doing what you are doing or what you hope to achieve. And then the vision, which we said is the long-term goal that we want to achieve. I've been talking so much, and now I just want to pause and see if everyone is following or if someone has a question before I move on. Hello?
I'm
still waiting for feedback. Okay. All right. Great. Yes, so we try to explain what the vision is and why we need a vision in our campaign. So the first one, which is what, essentially just asking us what is the vision. So the vision is visualizing, or the vision is a visualization of the reality we want to see where the issue is overcome. So when we take climate change again as an example, then at the end of the day, we want to combat climate change. That is our vision. So why we need a vision is that it inspires us. It gives us an opportunity of another world which is possible, and it generates alternate realities for us, or it generates alternative realities. It sort of orients and gives us a sense of direction, and it motivates us and other people who might join us along the way. Yeah, so I don't know if it's self-explanatory or if I need to explain all these four things. Again, I want feedback. All right, great. So we also looked at what we call the utopia, and utopia is just like having a perfect place or a perfect world where there are actually no problems. And we have this picture here. Who is familiar with this particular picture? If you know where you have seen this picture, just write it in the comment section. In this picture before anywhere, just write it in the comment section where you've actually seen or where you saw it. Who has watched the movie Black Panther? I can't be the only movie fan in this meeting. What are you saying?
I have.
Yes, so that picture is taken from the movie Black Panther, and this is actually Wakanda, the African country that was never colonized. And this is just like, a depiction of what an African country that wasn't colonized by the Europeans could look like, and it's sort of like a utopia for most people. Looking at the way their infrastructure and their social development is quite unique. And we say utopia is just a perfect place where there are no problems. So for us to better formulate a vision, And it's important that we think about it like this. We try to imagine a world where the issues and the problems that we seek to address does not exist. And then we can have the vision that we want to use for our projects. Yeah, so this was given as an assignment for those of us who are here in the evening. I don't know how many of us were able to do it. If you are to do it, kindly share with us in the comment section. I don't know if it's possible to upload a picture. No, I doubt it. But yeah, if you did it and you want to share it, kindly let me know. I will find a way of showing it to the rest of the team. Yes, we also talked about problem and context analysis. We said that it's important to really understand what causes the problem that we are talking about and what the effects are on the community. And also look at, so I'm just going to copy the text, the text and put it in the comment section for you so that we can move forward. Yes, the task is just draw your vision of a future where the problem has been overcome or the problem has been solved. Yeah, so problem and context analysis. It's important to understand the problem and also understand the context, your context or the context of the geographical area that you are doing the project. To do this, we have two tools that would help us. We have the problem tree analysis tool, which will help us to better understand what the problem is. I'm just going to widen this a bit so that we can see everything. Yeah, so we said that we need to look at the problem like a plant, okay? When you take a plant, you notice that the roots is what helps it to grow taller and taller and, grow branches, grow leaves, and eventually also produce fruits, right? And there is also the need for sunlight, microbes and microorganisms, and water to help the plant actually grow. And this is how we try to explain it. So we look at the problem as the stem of the plant, and then the roots to be the causes, and the branches, leaves, and fruits would be the effects, while the sun, the microorganisms, and water being the contributing factors. And we say that when we take the roots, smaller roots that goes deeper down into the ground to search for water and to search for nutrients that would help the plant grow. So we call those ones to the underlying causes, okay? So in order to use this tool, you will have to replace the problem here, the stem here, which we refer to as the problem. You need to replace it with that issue that you are trying to understand. So let's say we put climate change here, okay? Then we'll ask ourselves, what are the direct causes of climate change? And one can say that the direct cause of climate change is the emission of harmful gases into the atmosphere, right? Then we write it here as the direct cause. And then when you look at the direct cause, there is something that also causes, that direct cause. So for instance, if we say the emission of harmful gases into the atmosphere is our direct cause, and underlying causes could be that factories are producing these gases, these harmful gases, or transport systems are providing these gases that causes the direct cause that we are talking about. And we can also talk about the effects of climate change to be that there would be global warming, right? And there are many other ways that climate change actually affects the society. So we need to look at what those immediate effects are and also look at what the long-term effects are. So if the problem is not solved, what would happen in maybe 10 years or 15 years to come or 50, 100 years to come if the problem is not solved? And we look at also the contributing factors to the effects of the problem and also the contributing factors to the causes of the problem. This is quite simple, but yet also complicated tool to use. Let me know if you understand it, and if not, I can try and explain it again. Ladies and gentlemen, I am looking for feedback again. Foster says it makes sense for him or her, sorry. How about others?
I think it's all right.
All right.
Understandable.
All right, so we move. Context analysis. We also have this tool that is widely used by the business people. You know, they call it the 5 Ws equals H. Some people just have the 5 W. But yeah, this is something that we also see is important for us to use in order to understand the context that we come from or the context of wherever it is that we want to solve this particular issue. And the 5 Ws just has to do with we asking ourselves these 5 questions: the what, who, when, where, and why. What here is what are the facts about the problem that you know of? 2 is who is responsible for the problem or who is affected by the problem. The third one is when did the problem start taking place? When did the problem start and when did it take place? The fourth one is where is the problem present? And the fifth one is why is the problem persisting? So when you ask yourself all these questions and you find answers to all of them, then it will give you a background of the context within you find yourself with relation to that problem that you are trying to solve. So let's take climate change again as an example. What are the facts about the problem? Let's discuss within our local context, wherever we come from, what can we say are the facts of climate change? I want to hear from you now. Yeah, Foster. Foster, your mic is on, but we cannot hear what you are saying. Or you could also just write it in the chat box. That's still fine.
Okay, I can also go.
Sure.
Some of the effects of climate change, like that I've noticed in my area, is low food security or nothing at all, because there are some staple crops that can only grow in certain climates. When it is too much, they dry up, or there'll be submersion. Like where I stay, there's a lot of rice farming. So when it floods, you find that there's a lot of farmers that will go hungry because they can no longer sell their produce.
Right. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, so that is one fact of climate change. Who else wants to tell us something based on their local context or maybe something that's quite general? So Lizzie says climate change causes power scarcity in my country. Definitely. So when we list out all these facts about climate change, to who is responsible. So who can we say is responsible for climate change? And again, who is affected by climate change? Let's discuss. Yeah, Lizzie.
Can you hear?
Yeah, sure, we can hear you.
Yes, so I think the people responsible, I think everyone has a part to play in contributing to climate change.
Right.
It's almost every sector of society that contributes to climate change, either knowingly and unknowingly. And I don't know, I've forgotten your last part of the question.
The last part is who is affected.
Who is affected? I think every one of us. Every one of us is
Yeah.
affected, whether knowingly or unknowingly, because when it hits the agriculture sector, which is the most affected by climate change, every individual is affected by the adverse effects of climate change, because when the economy is down, everyone else is affected.
Sure. Yeah, so this is what you actually do to all the other questions. You try to break it down and find answers to all these questions. And mind you, you just don't write one answer to each question and say you have done a context analysis. Exhaust everything that you can think of, and if possible, to find more information that you can put in here, and then you can say that you have done the context analysis of the problem, which can essentially help you understand the problem and within the context that you find yourself. And it's also important for us to look at what social cultural norms need to change in order to address this issue that we are talking about. And like we said, these social cultural norms are part of our culture, and if we are able to change parts of our culture, then essentially we can, get the impacts or results that we need. Exercise for us to do. You can do it at your own convenient time. Sometime during the afternoon, before we have our next and final session for today, you can just work on this, and then we can share with each other when we meet again at 2:30 p.m. I've just copied the exercise and pasted it in the chat section, so you can go there and have access to it. So yes, now that we have talked about our vision, we have looked at how we can break down our problem and how we can better understand our context, we need to also look at our audience, okay? So that we don't just do something that does not really connect with the people that we want to connect with. With artistic activism, we are just not looking at doing a project or a campaign just for doing sake. We are looking at targeting specific people who will be able to do certain things at the end of the project or the campaign. So we are looking at having people who have the power to change certain things or the power to influence certain decisions that would essentially cause a change in the society with respect to whatever issue that we are talking about. For us to do this, we need to break down the audience into different types so that we can understand each one of them and know how to relate or deal with them during the campaign. So let's ask ourselves why we need to do an audience analysis. One is to identify who has the power to influence the issue. Two is to understand what the audience think, feel, and do about the issue. The third one is to design an artistic action that engages the audience. Now, I'm very much particular about the second one, which is to understand what the audience think, feel, and do about the issue. So discussion about that before we move on. So what can you say about that? Why do you think we need to understand what the audience think, feel, and do about this issue that we are talking about? Anyone? Yeah.
I think maybe it's because we need to they can relate with. Can you get me?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Can you say that again?
I was saying maybe it's because we need to deliver something that the audience can relate to, because understanding our audience help us structure our activism in a way that is sort of relatable to our target audience.
That's right. That's right. Great. Thank you for sharing. Any other?
I would also it's important to understand what the audience thinks and feels, because sometimes maybe they have possible solutions that they can themselves spearhead, and they just
Exactly.
need help with maybe resources or something. And like just going for just mere research without understanding how they would want to tackle it themselves.
Right. Exactly. Thank you very much. Yes, you are all right. And what I can also add to that, does someone say something? I see
Yeah,
someone's mic is
I
on.
want to talk about
Something.
the audience.
Right.
The
Please go ahead.
audience. So the audience is your main target. So when you are communicating to them, your concept needs to target the audience. So there is a need
Right.
for you to do analysis.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. Thank you very much for sharing that too. Yeah, so what I can also add is that with artistic activism, we are looking at not just raising awareness, but also targeting the emotions of people and moving them from just awareness into actually doing an action. Okay, so with your artistic activism, the reason why you need to understand what the audience think is that you want to know if they have information about the issue. So climate change, for instance, I'm very much sure that there are a lot of people who still till today do not understand what climate change is, or they do not know what climate change is all about, or perhaps they know but they do not know that that is what they call climate change. You know, so if you better understand this, then you can design your action to give them that information that they need to know about the issue. Now, the second one, which is feel, you need to know if people are feeling a certain way about the issue. Sometimes the reason why a lot of people are apathetic towards the issues because they do not have that feeling that it takes to actually do something yet, So for an issue like climate change, maybe people are not angry enough that our leaders are not doing enough for us. Do not feel the impact that it's having on them just as much as some people do. So when you understand how they feel there too, then you can also do your artistic action to arouse certain feelings in them. If it is anger you want them to feel, then you design your artistic action to make them feel angry. If it is sadness or sorrow you want them to feel, you design your artistic action to make them feel sorrowful, or to make them feel um, sorrowful about the issue. And the third one, which is do, is you want to know if people are doing something to help solve the problem of climate change yet. And then when you get to know that, you can also suggest some things that they can do, or together you can help them to come out with things that they should be doing in order to combat climate change. And like I said, this is the most important part of action because we are targeting people's thoughts, we are targeting their feelings, and at the end of the day, we want to move them from just having knowledge about the issue and towards actually doing something or taking a stand on the issue that we are talking about. And it's also important for us to understand why and how engagement beyond spectatorships helps move audience towards action. And this is just what I've mentioned. We need to move them beyond just spectatorship. Our artistic action as just some performance to entertain them, but then moving them towards an action, something that will help them to actually take an action towards that issue that we are talking about. Right. So, involve people. The audience is not only spectators, but also part of the action. With artistic activism, we don't just go there to perform like regular artists. We involve the audience at any point in time, be it when we are doing a stage play or when we are doing a painting or any art form that we are doing. We try to involve the people so that they feel part of the campaign that we are doing, and at the end of the day, they can take an action. Now, research has shown that people tend to be more committed to something that they know that they co-created or they helped to build. You know, when they have that sense of ownership of that thing, then they wouldn't let it die. But then if it's something that is just, dumped on them or pushed onto them, chances are they might not really keep it. They might not really hold it of high esteem like that. But if it's something that they help to build or they help to create, then they tend to respect it more and not allow it to die. So it's important for us to always engage our audience at any point in time that we are doing our actions. So the types of audience that we have: primary, secondary, intended. Sorry for the typos. Unintended audience. So, who can help me explain what the primary audience here stands for? I know some people might have different ideas to the types of audience, but with artistic activism, we have decided to go with this type. The time that I was doing this same presentation, and someone asked me that from his background, this is not the types of audience that we have the passive audience, the active audience, and he mentioned quite some more. But for the purpose of this particular workshop, or for the purpose of this particular training, we have categorized the types of audience into these three, which is the primary, secondary, and unintended audience. And I want us to just think about it and try our hands on what the meanings are before I share what I have here with us. So the first one is primary audience. What do you think primary audience is referring to here? Yes.
Audience you are targeting.
The audience that is
The main audience.
The main audience.
directly involved or by the same cause.
Right. That is involved in the same cause as you are doing. Okay, any other? Uh-huh. Okay. Uh-huh.
Okay, let me just give an example.
Yes, please.
For example, we're talking about a teenage pregnancy.
Uh-huh.
So In this case, our primary audience is the female teenagers, because they are the people that are directly
Right,
affected by
right. Directly affected by the issue, right?
this.
Of course. Thank you. So the first one, yes, primary audience is who do you want to engage with your action, or who do you want to take an action? And of course, these could be people who are directly affected by the issue, or this could be people who might not necessarily be directly affected by the issue, but they're the people who would actually take an action, you know, when they experience your artistic action. But they're the people you actually really do want to engage with your action. And in this case, you can, of course, target the people who are directly affected, like the teenage pregnancy example my brother gave. You know, if you target the young girls who usually get pregnant, they are the people who are most often directly affected by the issue. When you target them, chances are they would take an action towards this particular issue that we are talking about. So what about the next one, which is secondary audience? What can we say about it? Does someone have an idea?
Yeah, so the secondary audience is the people that can, or the people that influence the primary audience in one way or another.
I'm sorry, the people that what?
That have an influence on the primary audience in one way or another.
That has an influence, the primary audience. Okay. So the secondary audience, of course, are the people who have power to resolve the problem, or the people who have some sort of influence over the problem that we are talking about. So they are the type of people we would want to influence to take a stand on the issue. And these people usually are the ones who are in, decision-making spaces, like the people in parliament, the traditional authority, and anyone who is in like some sort of high-level office. So these are the people we refer to as the secondary audience. But we believe that with whatever that we are doing, it has something to do with power dynamics, and the people who have power within society automatically has like a larger say in whatever it is that goes in the country or in the society. These people, when they are able to, form policies or make laws that seeks to address this issue that we are talking about, then we are moving a step towards the change that we want to see. Now, the third audience we call unintended. An unintended audience because they may be people that you did not think or you did not expect to be at your campaign site or your your space that you are going to do the artistic activism, but then they show up anyways. And the picture in here shows an example of what the unintended audience could be. So we did this particular project in Jamestown in Ghana here, where we expected young people between the ages of 15 to 35 to show up. And majority of the people who were there, artistic action was actually these young children, We did not plan for them, but they showed up anyway. So one way or the other, we had to engage them. Because even though you did not expect them and they show up, you don't need to neglect them. You need to engage them one way or the other. And chances are some of them might actually learn a thing or two from what you are doing. And you never know. It might not be children who show up, but maybe you didn't plan for your member of parliament to be part of your artistic action. But fortunately or unfortunately, he or she is passing by, sees what you are doing, and decides to stop. So even though you didn't plan for that person, but the person comes by, and that person might have an influence towards, making a change in that issue that you are speaking on. It's important to always have like your primary and secondary audience, and also plan for the unintended audience or people that you did not necessarily plan to see there, so that one way or the other we can help to engage them. So the mathematicians in this group, let me see you by hands. People who are good at mathematics. I know I am poor. I want to know if we have a mathematician within the group. Okay. Are we all full of bright brains? Momo, I see you. Yes, so if you remember this from maybe high school, I don't know if it how it is in your country, but I was taught this particular thing in junior high school, the Venn diagram, where they place X in the middle, put some figures, all over, then ask you to find X. So that is what we are doing here. We are going to find X. So you need to draw this sort of Venn diagram and have these three circles where you place the people, who are affected, the people who have influence, and the people who are motivated to act here. And then when you have all these intersections, the one that connects to all these three are the most effective audience to engage. Now, another way of doing this is that you can actually also place the primary, secondary, and unintended audience into these three boxes. And when you find one in the middle here, they would be the most effective audience to engage. So essentially what you do is that when you pick the affected by the issue here, you list out anybody you can think about that is affected by the issue. So when we take climate change, we'll say that everyone is affected by climate change. But then we cannot just write everybody there. We need to specify, because it's important to highlight certain people who are like more affected by the issue, so that we can know who to actually target. So we can write here farmers, we can write women, we can write children, we can write poor people, because they are the people who are most affected by climate change. And when it comes to influence, we think about the people who have influence over the issue. So our members of parliament, our opinion leaders, our traditional leaders, our presidents, world leaders, and all these people, we'll write them there. And then we also think about people who are motivated to act on this issue. And these people could be other youth groups, other CSOs who are also interested in climate change. And anyone that you can think of will have that motivation to act on the issue. And then when you list out all these people, you try to see if they can actually intersect. If you can find someone who is affected by the issue, at the same time has an influence over the issue, and you write that person here, and then you do same for this place and this place. And then when you find that person or that group of people who are able to fall within here, the people who are affected, who have influence at the same time, are motivated to take an action about the issue, then you put them here and they will be the most effective audience to engage. But quite unfortunately, it's usually very difficult to find such people. But then when you are able to find them, then you will know that they will be the best people to target. Any questions so far before we move on? Questions?
Clear here.
Okay. Uh-huh. So can I move on?
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Sure, we can hear you.
Okay, my question, I'll just take you back a bit. During your planning of different types of audiences. So does it mean it's done during your activism or before your activism on all those three types of audiences?
So this is done before, because that is when you are actually planning for the activism, right? And when I go back to the very first, we have here the campaign plan. So that means at this stage, we are yet planning for the campaign before we move to take the action, you know? So all these things we are talking about right now are still in the planning phase where we need to define what our vision is. We need to create the world that we want to see. We need to understand the problem and understand the context that we find ourselves, and also understand the audience that we may see out there. Okay, so all these things you have to do before you step out to engage the audience.
Okay, because I was just like, because there are some urgent issues that sometimes arises, and you need to take a quick action even before your audience get more capacitated in certain things, but you want to do a quick awareness before
Definitely.
you plan everything. So I was just checking.
Definitely. And of course, you can even finish all these planning and everything. Then you start your campaign, and then you realize that there were certain flaws in your planning. Maybe something happened that's really surprised you, and like you need to take into account that new thing that has happened. And this is possible. So that's why we also added that it's important to add unintended audience, because they could be one of the most surprising factors in your workshop, which can in your campaign, which can actually throw you off balance. You know, so it's important to always know that not everything that you have planned for would go well, and try to find ways to mitigate that.
Okay, great.
So yeah, we moving forward, we have the pillars of power. And these are the spaces where we think usually power resides, and where you can actually find people who are in the position of power and can have an influence on the issue that we are talking about. And we mentioned the local community. Uh, we talked about the chiefs, the kings, the traditional rulers, and all that. When we look at bureaucracy, we're talking about the people in the parliament, the people in the judiciary, the people in higher offices. And we have the educational system. We have our teachers, the headmistresses, the Ministry of Education, and all that. And when you come to religion, we have the religious bodies, we have the religious leaders, we have the religious institutions themselves, and they have some level of power above the community or above the society. We have the media, of course, and we have business. There are a lot of um, business people out there who have some certain amount of power within the society and can also contribute to the change that we want to see. And when we are looking at people who have influence, these are the kind of people that we should be targeting so that they can actually help us with whatever it is that we are going to do. Yeah, another exercise for us. So brainstorm on the various stakeholders that are related to the issue and place them on the model presented, and identify who among them would be the primary, secondary, and unintended audience of the artistic action. Okay, so this is just for us to also test out this particular model that we have introduced, and you can take a picture of it, and maybe later during the day, you can do something about that. Let me know if I can move on. Can I move on?
Yes.
Great. Fieldwork interviews. Fieldwork interviews. Now it's important for us to do proper research, not just on the topic, but also on the audience that you are going out there to interact with. Like I mentioned before, you need to first of all understand what they think, feel, and do about the issue before you can then plan your action to target them in order to understand certain things or to feel certain ways and perhaps take certain actions. Lizzie is asking if we can share the slides today. Well, the plan is to share the slides after the workshop. So maybe after this evening sessions, we can share them later in the evening or perhaps tomorrow. This is because it's actually a full document that has all the sessions, including the one that we are going to do in the afternoon. So we would want to withhold that for now and share it later. Sorry about that. Yes. But yeah, if you want me to go back so that you can take a screenshot or a picture of the exercise, I can do that for you. Is that what you want? Okay, cool. Yes, so fieldwork interviews. Why we need to do it is to gain insight into how our audience think, feel, and act about the issue that we are talking about, and to create actions that actually engages the audience the way we want it. So what are the fieldwork interviews? They're interviews with our primary audience, insights about the audiences, and answers to our questions. Now, when we are planning for the audience, we also need to know the sort of things that they are interested in, the sort of knowledge that they have on the issue, the sort of things that may offend them, because you need all these things so that your campaign or your artistic campaign does not backfire on you when you go out there to do it. So these preliminary interviews are very important for you to do to better understand who your audience are, what their insights are, and also answer certain questions that you have as a campaigner. So while you are preparing for the interview, these are the things that you need to do. So before the interview, you need to agree on a description of the audience, and you can maybe have like some assumptions, like the age range, the socioeconomic background of the people, the geographical location, and also what they think, feel, and do about the issue. So during the interview, you need to be very open. You don't have to judge the answers that you get from them. Why? Because it helps you to better understand certain things that they say. And you need to ask open-ended questions rather than closed-ended questions, because this can actually help them to open up and say certain things that you might not have asked them, which will be relevant to whatever it is that you are doing. Be curious and always ask more, and listen and absorb whatever the people are saying. It's a typo there, I'm sorry for that. Make sure you always take notes of what they are saying, their body language, and also make certain observations on your own and take notes of that. And after you are done with the interview, you need to discuss with your team what your observations were and what your interpretations are, and write down these interpretations and what the persons or the people that you met out there said or the things that they did. Well, this is an exercise that you will have to do on your own, at your own time, when you are doing your own campaign. But before I move on to the interview finding objectives, can we maybe tell if we understand everything or if we have any questions or contributions to this. Or is everything clear? Silence
I
means
think for me,
okay.
on my part,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of like making sense because this is more like I can say you've already started your preparation, but when you're going into the field to meet up a certain audience, you sort of act like you don't know because even like you expect more from the audience because they're the ones who have better information than you. So it's also like a process on the campaigner to also understand, to learn from the audience before they deliver.
Definitely. Definitely. Very, very important. So can we move forward?
Yes.
All right. So interview findings and objectives. So when you go out to do these research and have all your findings, it will help you to now formulate your objectives. You know, formulate the kind of things you want to achieve at the end of the day with your campaign. Do we analyze the interviews? So this is what we do. Because we have already outlined who our primary audience, our secondary audience, and unintended audience are, we'll now come and write down based on the findings that we have that what do the audience think, the primary audience first, what do they think, what do they feel, and what do they do about the issue. Also know what activities do they enjoy, you know, and this also forms part of the popular culture that we talked about. Getting to know what the people are interested in can help you to design your creative action to relate with those activities so that the people will actually enjoy it when you do it. And you do same for your secondary audience. For the unintended audience, it's possible that you might not even get everyone to interview, but you also need to, based on the ones that you've written down, you need to ask these people to and know what they feel, think, and do about your issue, so that in any case you find out that the people who are in the unintended category are showing up, you can know how to handle them. So how you would want to influence your audience is that you'd want them to think, feel, and do in a certain way, and you do the same thing for the primary, secondary, and unintended audience. So what do you want your audience to think? What do you want your primary audience to think? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do? This will help you to have like some form of measurement as to whether you are achieving your aim or not. So when you have all these things, when you have all these analysis, then you can now formulate your objectives. And I want to pause here and ask you, what are objectives? Anyone?
I think objectives here are the indicators that leads you to drive to achieve your goal or your aim. The indicators that let you achieve your goals and aim.
Definitely. Indicators that let you to achieve your goal or aim. Any other? Uh-huh.
Maybe in simple terms, there are things that you want your audience to learn before you deliver.
Things you want your audience to learn before you deliver. Interesting. Any other? Maybe one more before we go.
I feel objectives also give direction to whatever you want to do. Like it's an arrow that is pointing to what exactly you need to do, not necessarily the general perspective of it.
Sorry, can you take that again? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, we didn't hear you. Okay, I didn't hear you very well. If you could kindly take that again, I'd be very happy.
Okay, I say that objectives are like a guide to whatever you want to do. Like they give direction to how you want to do something or what you want to achieve at the end of the day.
Definitely. Some sort of a guide about what you want to do and what you hope to achieve at the end of the day. Yeah, that is true. So objectives are like the short-term goals that you set for yourself, things that you want to do at the end of your campaign or your project, so that it will help you to actually measure and see if you are making progress or not. So in formulating our objectives, we have what we call the SMART objectives, where the SMART is an acronym for um, specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R for relevant, and T for time-based. I know some of us are familiar with these SMART objectives, so I am looking for a kind person to help me to explain all these: the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. Anyone, please help a brother out.
Um,
Yes, Lizzie.
I'm not sure. Just maybe put it on the screen so that I'm seeing it.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I'm going to explain everything, but here's what I know or what I can
Feel
remember.
free, feel free, feel free.
Yeah, so the specific aspect of these objectives is self-explanatory. Like it suggests our goals are supposed to be specific. If, for example, we want to tackle a problem of drug abuse in our communities, we're supposed to be specific. When exactly is no, I'm going to time based. We're supposed to be specific on maybe
Sure.
what exactly are we trying to achieve? Um are we trying to target everyone in the community? Is there a specific type of group? And I'll go back to specific type of group that we are targeting. So
Right.
it's supposed to, our objective in this area is supposed to be specific.
Of course.
Yes, I think that's all.
Sure, sure. And you nailed it. Thank you very much for sharing. Anyone else?
Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Can I come in? Come on.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
Yeah, actually, being specific. Let's say you want to tackle bushfire, bushfire.
Right.
Then how are you going to measure it? At the end of the day, how are you going to make sure this aim is achieved? How are you going to measure? At the end, look at the situation before. So the situation was that there were a whole lot of bushfires Then you want at the end of the day it to be non-distant. Then achievable. Will it be achievable? Can you stop people from burning the bushes? These are the things to take into consideration. Then relevant.
Right.
When they stop bush fires, what impact does it have on community or society? So look at
Right.
it relevant, make it time. Then time based or time bound. At what time do you want to implement, to do your activities?
Right.
Like time, dependent time. If you want to start at 2025, want to see a green vegetation at this modality, you understand? So the smart always a best tool indicating your. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you very much to Thomas for that explanation. So yes, you need to be specific with what you are dealing with. So like Thomas mentioned, climate change or climate justice is broad. So you need to pick a specific thing that you want to tackle so that at the end of the day, you are not just doing everything that is maybe quite difficult to handle, okay? And it also needs to be measurable. It should be something that you can actually measure and see as to whether you are making progress or not. So for example, if I say I am going to sensitize 50 people in my community about climate change, at the end of the day, I can measure whether or not I'm able to sensitize those 50 people, right? But if I come out and say I'm going to sensitize young people in my community about climate change, how many young people am I talking about? You see, with that one, it's difficult to measure. Okay, so you need to put a specific number there so that you can measure this at the end of the day. And it should also be achievable. It should be something that you can actually do based on the resources that you have. So if I, as an individual, would say that I want to educate 10 million people on climate change, I'm just an individual, I don't have that much resources. How am I able to, educate 10 million people within some time? It's quite, not achievable for me. So I need to put a number there, or I need to put something that I can actually achieve at the end of the day. An example could also be that I say that I am going to meet the president of Ghana to discuss, let's say, climate change and ensure that he signs a document to ban single-use plastics. As an individual, I don't have that capacity, so it's very not achievable for me. So I need to be very considerate about that. So you need to put something in there that at the end of the day, you can actually achieve it. And relevant, it should be relevant to whatever topic that you are doing. So the campaign you are doing should be relevant to that topic that you are talking about. For instance, I can't say that I'm working on climate change when I'm doing workshops on teenage pregnancy. It's very difficult to relate teenage pregnancy with climate change, right? So you need to do something that is relevant to the issue that you are talking about. And it should also be time-based. So from this point to this point, this is what I'm going to do. So if I say I'm going to educate 50 people in my community on climate change, when am I going to do this? Then I can say by July 15th. Then by July 15th, I can now measure and see, yes, whether I have done it or not. So it has like that time frame that I am going to work within. But if I don't put a time frame there, I can, relax till maybe 10 years time to do it, which in essence might not also be relevant at that time. So it's important to be specific with what you are talking about, put in certain measures that you can use to see whether or not you are achieving your goal or you're not. And it also needs to be something that you can actually work with based on the resources that you have. And it should be something that is related to the issue that we are talking about, time limit at which we are going to work on the project or campaign. I hope that makes sense. Let me hear you say yeah, if it makes sense for you.
For me, it makes sense, but I just had a question. And relevant. Can it also be replaced with being realistic?
Of course. It can be replaced with that. I mean, that is the other word that some people put in place of the relevant, realistic. They they mean the same thing virtually, or they are
Okay.
somehow linked with each other, relevant and it being realistic. Okay, so can we move forward?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are some examples for you. These two examples, I want you to look at it carefully and tell me whether or not they are SMART objectives. And we've already talked about what the SMART means. So just look at these examples and let's see if they are smart enough for us. So the first one is that by the end of this month, at least 500 people have signed our petition to ban plastic waste in Ghana. That's the first one. The second one is in 6 months, we will see 1,000 new members joining the African Creative Action Network's Facebook page and 10 artistic actions executed by members. I'll give you some few minutes to process this and then we can discuss whether or not these objectives are smart or not. Okay, so if you are ready to share your opinion, I'd like to listen to you.
I think because it is specific, they want at least 500 people to sign the petition. It is measurable. It is measurable because you can measure after at the end of this month if you've achieved the 500 or more people who have signed for the petition.
Right.
It is also what's an A? Achievable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is also achievable because it's just a matter of signing.
Right.
Yeah, and when it comes to realistic or relevant, yeah, it is relevant to the society. So people can go ahead and sign it. Then time bound, there's a month end.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it is smart.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else?
The first, I agree on the other side the way Robert had contributed, but looking at it on the SMART objective,
Uh-huh.
comes to the time bound, it's not possible within 6
1 month.
months, 1 month.
Okay.
Let's see.
You mean the second one?
Let me start with the first one.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so for the first one,
Mm-hmm.
for them to sign in 1 month,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it might not be possible because you need to reach out to them.
Right.
Yeah. Then for the second one, 6 months. I'm just talking on the time bound on the time bound side. 6
Yeah.
months we'll see 1,000 new members joining on the platform. And again in 6 months, it's possible.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting
Yeah.
point of
It's
view.
kind of debatable. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Can we have one more before we move on?
Yes. So my concern
Uh-huh.
my concern is before I even start answering which one applies on the smart objectives. The
Yeah.
first the first statement, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if it qualifies to be an objective
Mm.
because it is in the past tense. It says by the end of this month, at at least 500 people have signed.
Mm.
So it's a bit confusing. Our petition to ban
Mm.
plastic waste in Ghana. So I was thinking, is it already something that happened or it's an objective?
Okay, so we are finding the English tutors and the Queen's cousins in our midst. Thank you for pointing that out. I don't know if this helps. We'll have time. Does it make a difference now?
Yes. There's a huge difference now because it's in the future.
Right.
So now I can go to answering.
Uh-huh.
So I think the first one is realistic.
Okay.
It's realistic in the sense that we've pointed out how many people we want.
Right.
Yes, and it is specific. We are targeting people to sign our petition, and then it
Mm-hmm.
is time bound in that we have put a time to say by the end of this month. But the second one also is time bound in 6 months.
Right.
We'll see 1,000 new members joining the Facebook page, but
Hmm?
it is a bit unrealistic.
Oh, okay.
It is a bit unrealistic in that we can't really regulate how many people will join the Facebook page, and
Right.
those are my thoughts.
Great. Thank you very much, all of you, for your contribution. This shows that we actually really understand what the smart objectives means, because with the way all of us are looking at the objectives and analyzing it, it shows that we really understand what they mean. Yes, this was just a test to see how we would use the smart objectives template to discuss this, and I believe that that has been achieved. One thing I also want to point out is that it's always important to write the name of the month and, if possible, specific date, because you can actually mean this month, which we are in, but then someone picks it 2 months later. Is it still applicable? Can that person still, relate with exactly what you were doing? So I think it's important to always write the month there, the year, and if possible, even the date that you want to do this. And of course, it's important to factor in your resources. Will you be able to reach out to 500 people to sign this petition? What sort of mediums are you going to use? Maybe it's possible through these social media or online, petitions, where you can actually share it with your 1,000 followers on Twitter, or like your 1,500 friends on Facebook, and which maybe when they know you very well can actually sign the petition. But yeah, you need to consider if the number is realistic enough. Yeah, thank you very much for putting your thoughts into this. Now the time now is 11:21. We have just 9 minutes left, so I wouldn't want to start the next session because it will demand more time. So we're going to continue again in the afternoon at exactly 2:30 p.m. I'm really, really, really hoping that all of us here will come back again to join the next session. And I just want to pause here and say if we have any questions to ask right from when we started this morning till now, if you have any questions concerning the presentations or any of the slides, we can ask it now so that we can address it before we wrap up the session for this morning. And if there are no questions, if you have a contribution or anything to add, feel free to do so.
Mohammed.
Yes, my brother.
Yeah. I forgot I was yeah, I was sleeping.
Oh my God.
Yeah, kind of fly the fever was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
You gave me a warning.
Thomas warned me.
You gave me a warning last night, but today is Friday.
I'm so sorry, gentlemen. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's
But
fine.
in the afternoon, I'll take part.
Definitely. I hope to see you in there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so any questions? Okay. Silence means concerned, right?
Yes.
Great. Off topic, I really love the East African accent. And I find myself mimicking them anytime like someone speaks. Like it's just so nice.
We also like your accent.
Oh really? I don't know if I'm the only West African who is so much in love with the East African accent. I just wish I was East African.
You should just come to Zambia.
I will come to Zambia. I have a lot of friends in Zambia, by the way.
Oh, amazing. Nice.
Yes.
Like me,
Do any of you know Taweni?
Very much is my friend.
Aha, Taweni is my brother from another mother.
Wow.
Coincidentally, yesterday he texted me on WhatsApp asking me if you are one of the facilitators, and I said he's one of our main facilitators. Was like, he sent me pictures. He was staying with you. I was
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, he was staying with me when he came to Ghana here for a workshop. We actually work with the same organization together. It's called Dance for Life.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
For me, I work with him with the Global Volunteer Trainers.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice.
Now, Muhammad, I've got a concern because of time difference. Yesterday, it's not that I didn't want to attend, but it's just the time difference. I couldn't like realize so quick that it's 2 hours. We are 2 hours away from you guys.
Yeah.
So I tried to go in my email. I didn't see the link. So I was wondering like, how do I join? And I wasn't getting hold of the training. So maybe today, if we are using the same link, we can it can be easy. But if you are using a different link for the afternoon, please kindly send it maybe an hour or minutes before.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that most of us had the link issue yesterday. Even myself, I was in the wrong link for almost 10 minutes, I think, before I got into the right one. So I'll let Daniel address this because he is responsible for that. Daniel, what do you have to say about the links?
He sent it in the mail.
He sent it in the mail. Yeah, so if you check the mail, it has the morning and the afternoon. So look out for the afternoon when you are going to join this afternoon. So there are two different links for both the morning and the afternoon. So look out for the two all and know which one to go to.
Okay, thank you so much, Daniel and Mohammed.
Thank you too, Foster. Muti. Is your
She's
name
not,
Foster or Muti?
she's not telling me
Foster.
things well.
So your
My
name is
name
Foster.
is Foster, then the surname
Uh-huh.
it's Muti.
Interesting enough, in Ghana here, Foster is for male. So
So yes, even in Zambia, it's a unisex name, but you can see the spelling. It's for PH. That means it's for a
for
female.
ladies,
For F, it's for male.
well and
You guys. How come she's not saying thank you to me?
okay.
Christopher, you're saying something?
You are not saying thank you to me.
Thank you. I didn't even get anything. Tell me. Say what you said. Sorry.
I see that our West African friends are telling our women now.
Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
gosh.
On that note, thank you very much for your participation this morning. I will see you in the evening.
See you.
All right, see
All
you.
right. See you. Enjoy your day.
All right, you too. Mr. Daniel Abore. Mr. Daniel Abore, Anyorenga. Okay, bro, I think you're not here. All right.